Welcome back to Automate Office Work, the podcast where we explore not just how to make work faster or easier, but how to make it make sense. Today's episode is about the bedrock of all our effort, the hidden engine of every project, the one thing that defines our work, our lives, and even our sense of progress. We're talking about problems. Specifically, the problem with problems. That might sound like a philosophical joke, but I assure you, it's one of the most serious topics we can cover. Because everything we do, every automation we build, every meeting we hold, every improvement we chase, it all starts from the same source. A problem. A gap between where we are and where we want to be. But here's the crucial, often missed point. Most people don't really know what their problem is. They think they do. They feel the friction. They react to the symptom. They call it a pain point, but they don't really see the underlying structure. They're like doctors treating a headache without ever asking about the patient's diet or sleep. And I'm going to say this countless times today because it's the core truth of the modern office. If you don't know your problem, you cannot solve it. You can fix the symptoms, you can polish the surface, you can build a beautiful, shiny, automated process that makes the wrong thing happen faster. But the real problem? That remains untouched, often growing stronger, hidden beneath layers of quick fixes and successful deployments. So today we're slowing way down. We're going to ask the questions no one asks in the rush to fix. What is a problem conceptually? How do you find it? How do you know it's the real one, the root cause, and not just the noise? And why does the way you define it shape literally everything that comes after, from your technology stack to your team's culture? Let's start with the principle of perception. You can only identify a problem that you can see. This sounds obvious, but the implication is profound. If you're too close to your work, too caught up in the everyday tasks, your field of vision is naturally narrow. You'll only see what's right in front of you. You're trapped in the tactical. It's like standing so close to a masterpiece painting that you can only see one dense, confusing brushstroke. You'll describe the texture and the color of that stroke accurately, but you'll completely miss the art, the context, and the story it tells. In office work, this happens constantly, and it manifests as the call for a superficial fix. Someone on the team says, "We need to automate this spreadsheet. It takes 2 days a week. We need to reduce the number of emails we get from that department." Or, "We need a new project management workflow." But you have to pause and ask, are those problems? Or are they artifacts of a deeper, invisible tension? Is that just the brushstroke you're staring at? If you force yourself to zoom out, to take 2 steps back from the painting, you gain crucial perspective. Maybe the real problem isn't that there are too many emails. Maybe the problem is that no one's clear or who's responsible for what. And the emails are simply a desperate form of micromanaging and status checking that compensates for a lack of structural clarity. Automation in that case won't help. It won't fix the clarity gap. It'll just make confusion, anxiety, and distrust circulate faster. It will essentially be a beautiful frame around a broken painting. Automation doesn't fix poor understanding. It amplifies it. If the fundamental issue is a conceptual flaw in your business model or a conflict in team roles, an expensive AI tool will only help you reach failure faster and more efficiently. We have to train ourselves to look beyond the immediate pain, to understand that the symptoms is just the alarm bell. It is not the fire. The great physicist Albert Einstein is often quoted as saying, "If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem, and 5 minutes thinking about the solution." Some versions say 50 and 10, or 45 and 15. The precise numbers are irrelevant. What matters is the ratio. Einstein wasn't being lazy. He understood something profound about the geometry of problem solving. How you define the problem determines the entire universe of possible solutions. It's the classic innovation metaphor. If you define your problem as "I need a faster horse," your solution will always stay constrained within the world of equine biology and carriage mechanics. But if you redefine it as "I need faster transportation for human beings," your imagination is instantly expanded to cars, planes, rockets, and perhaps even teleportation. The second definition opens up orders of magnitude more possibility. The same applies directly to office work. where we get trapped in the horse and buggy mindset every day. If you define your problem as, I need to automate my reports, you will build a complex bot to gather data, write a summary, and click send. Your scope is fixed. If you define it as, I need to make better investment decisions faster, you'll realize the report might not be the problem at all. You'll redesign the entire information flow, eliminate unnecessary data points, perhaps merge two roles, and find a solution that is 10x simpler and more effective than any automation tool. The tools change because the problem definition changes. Einstein's rule isn't just about thinking time. It's about intellectual and emotional discipline. It's the discipline to not rush toward comfort, toward the dopamine hit of doing something. It's the discipline to stay in uncertainty until genuine clarity emerges. And that's rare because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. We crave action. We equate speed with intelligence. But true intelligence isn't speed. It's precision. It's the deep, calm confidence that you know exactly where to direct your speed so that every step moves you toward the ultimate destination. The moment you accept the first definition of the problem you hear, you have become a victim of the tyranny of the first answer. A solution is only valid if it solves your problem, which means how you define your problem is how you define your reality. Let's look at a common example. Definition A. Our onboarding process is too slow. The immediate action-oriented solution is to buy an automated HR platform, add checklists, and create a tracking dashboard. The result? New hires feel rushed, paperwork is done faster, but they still feel disconnected. The true problem, a lack of human mentorship, is untouched. Definition B. Our new hires feel isolated and don't contribute fully for 6 months. The solution now becomes mentorship programs, cultural integration steps, and scheduled one-on-one time. Automation is a minor part of the solution, only dealing with the administrative edge cases. Same symptom, a perceived lag in full productivity, but different worldview, different solution, and a wildly different outcome. That's why I often tell teams, slow down before you speed up. Because when you define the problem wrong, every solution just takes you further in the wrong direction, only faster. You can spend months or millions automating the wrong process and proudly call it progress. But progress towards what? If your compass is off by even a few degrees at the start of the journey, your destination ends up miles away. The core challenge is this. Our default mode is to look for a mechanistic fix, a piece of software, a new policy, when the true issue is often conceptual or behavioral. You can't automate away poor leadership or organizational fear or misaligned incentives. Those require deep redefinition. In the modern workplace, there's a kind of addiction to solutions. We're constantly chasing the next new thing. New AI tools, new frameworks, new buzzwords. We treat action like progress, but they are absolutely not the same thing. You see this everywhere. For example, a team implements the latest project management software because they think their problem is lack of visibility. But the real problem is that their goals are constantly shifting, making visibility irrelevant. They just spent 6 figures on a beautiful tracking system for a moving target. Or a manager says, we just need more training on the new system. But maybe the real issue isn't skill, it's structure. Or maybe the system is so poorly designed that no amount of training can overcome its inherent complexity. We fall in love with fixing things because fixing feels good. It delivers that instant hit of accomplishment. It gives us the illusion of control over a complex world. But the truth is brutal. You can't fix what you don't understand. If you don't know your problem, you cannot solve it. You can only disguise it. And sometimes that disguise becomes the new normal, the new status quo. You patch, you automate, you report. And years later, the organization is still suffering from the same fundamental misunderstanding, only now with a shiny automated mask. The most dangerous problem isn't the one that breaks things. The most dangerous problem is the one that's been partially fixed enough times to become a tolerated inefficiency. It flies under the radar because it's no longer a crisis. It's just how we do things around here. And those invisible tolerated inefficiencies are what slowly bleed productivity and morale dry. So, if we're all so bad at seeing the real problem, how do we find it? The answer is simple, though the execution is difficult. You must expand your horizon. You have to zoom out. You must step back. You must force yourself to see where your tiny, friction filled task fits into something much, much larger. Think about the role of the individual contributor. A lawyer doesn't write a contract just to write a contract. It's part of a larger event, a land purchase, a deal, a partnership that generates revenue. A data analyst doesn't build dashboards for fun. They do it to help decisions happen faster, leading to a better product or a more efficient supply chain. A process designer doesn't automate emails because they love bots. They automate to create space for human focus and creative thought. Every single task lives inside a larger story, the story of your business's ultimate value proposition. And that larger story defines what's truly valuable and what's merely activity. When you can see that story, you start asking better questions. Instead of asking, how do I make this spreadsheet faster? You ask, does the output of this spreadsheet truly inform the critical business decision it was designed for? Instead of asking, how do I get our software to talk to the other software? You ask, why do these two pieces of software need to talk at all? And is there a simpler, non-technical way to achieve the underlying business goal? Better questions create better definitions, and better definitions lead to better solutions. The real problem is not in the process. It's often in the purpose of the process. Here's the central paradox we must face. The problem isn't the problem. The problem is how you see the problem. If your worldview is fragmented, if you see your team, your process, and your technology as siloed pieces, you will see problems as isolated fragments too. You'll forever be playing whack-a-mole with symptoms. But if your worldview is connected, if you see your organization as a single complex system, you'll start seeing patterns and feedback loops. This is why some people seem to solve impossible problems easily. It's not that they're necessarily smarter in a traditional sense, it's that they see differently. They understand that the hardest part of problem solving is not logic, it's perception. Your mind filters reality based on your experience. Your company culture shapes what you think problems even are. And sometimes your job title strictly defines what you're allowed to see. A manager sees a reporting delay. An analyst sees a data flow issue. An employee sees conflicting instructions. They are all describing the same underlying phenomenon, but from different altitudes. So the trick, the meta skill, is to change altitude often. Zoom in for detail. Talk to the person doing the work. Feel the friction. Zoom out for meaning. How does this task connect to the company's annual goal? Then zoom back in to redefine. What if the current goal is wrong? That is how you start seeing the real landscape of your problem, not just one obscured corner of it. We often treat problems like intruders. Something went wrong. Fix it. Then get back to normal. But problems aren't interruptions. They're invitations. They invite you to look closer, think deeper, and fundamentally evolve. Every major innovation, every market-leading product, every great automation was born from an unaddressed problem. Every problem you face in your office stretches your thinking. It pushes you to build new mental models. It tests whether your assumptions still hold up under pressure. When something breaks, a process, a relationship, a legacy workflow, that's not a failure. That's feedback. It's reality saying loud and clear, this part of your understanding no longer fits the world we inhabit. If you rush past the feedback, you miss the lesson. If you simply automate the break, you're paving over the wisdom. Automation gives us the tools to act quickly and powerfully, but problems give us the wisdom to act well. They are the teachers in the classroom of business, and they will keep showing up in different forms until the lesson is learned. Embrace the friction, for it is the sound of your system attempting to learn. Let's get practical. Here are a few concrete habits you can start today that will help you get better at seeing problems clearly. 1. The 5 whys. Every time you identify a symptom, ask why to the answer. The 5th why usually reveals the truth that the first 3 questions were protecting. For example, why is the report late? Because the data is manual. Why is the data manual? Because the 2 systems don't talk. Why don't the systems talk? because they were bought by different departments that have no common governance strategy. Bingo. That is the problem. Example 2. Talk to the friction points. Talk to the people closest to the friction. The junior team member doing the manual work sees things that the executive looking at aggregated data cannot. The truth is always in the trenches. 3. Map your system visually. Do not describe the process, draw it. Use sticky notes on a wall. Draw the flow. When you can literally see the steps, the wait times, and the handoffs, the broken parts become physically obvious. 4. The subtraction test. Challenge your assumptions. Ask, what if we stop doing this process entirely? Often the problem isn't that something is slow, it's that it shouldn't exist at all, and its only purpose is to serve another outdated process. These habits sound simple, but they change everything. They shift your perspective from reactive to reflective, from fixing to understanding. So what's the real problem with problems? It's that we don't love them enough to understand them. We rush to solve, to fix, to automate, but we rarely take time to truly see the opportunity they present. Einstein had it right. Spend 50 minutes on the problem and only 10 on the solution. Because when you really understand the problem, when you know its structure, its history, and its purpose, the solution almost reveals itself. It becomes the logical next step in a clear journey. If you don't know your problem, you cannot solve it. But once you do know it, solutions multiply. Automation, AI, and new tools are all multipliers. They multiply whatever you feed them. Feed them confusion, and they multiply confusion. Feed them clarity, and they multiply value, impact, and freedom. So slow down, zoom out, look deep. Because the real power in work and in life is not in having all the answers. It's in learning to see problems clearly enough that the answers become obvious. This has been Automate Office Work, where we explore not just how to automate, but how to understand what, and more importantly, why it's worth automating. I'm Justin, wishing you happy automating.